Good morning, everybody. How lovely to see you all here. We're here to celebrate an improvement in our industry. So, how is actually the situation? This is a question we asked ourselves a couple of months ago. And we decided to resume our research at our observatory, asking Pierluigi Ascani and his team to carry out a structural research on the trends of our industry in order to see the changes that we're witnessing on a daily basis, because as we like to say, the future is yesterday. Understanding what is happening is paramount. Next to the participation of international buyers and exhibitors in this fair, we want to bring home some concrete data. So, hence this survey. Christmas has gone beyond any optimistic expectation, but how is 2023 going to be? The data provided by Format provide us with some indications that can be useful for the whole industry. Next to Pierluigi Ascani, president of Format, we also have the president of Federpreziosi Confcommercio, Mr. Aquilino, and Mr. Mario Didone, director of Hausmann and Co. Right, President, shall we start our conference? Good morning, and thank you very much for being here at this event. We are back to this room after several years, and we do this with a lot of joy and emotion. So I'm greeting you all on behalf of the Federation. I wish you profitable proceedings, and thank you again for being here. Thank you very much. Our president is always very precise and concise. Thank you. Yes, we have to leave space and room to the main actors today. Yes, Mr. Ascani, with whom we have started this information journey regarding the trends in our industry. We started 7 years ago, right in this room, so we have been monitoring the situation for 7 years, and I like the title that was chosen for today's meeting, Bye Bye Old Dogmas, the Certainties of the Past, and Welcome to the New Paradigms. So we want to live, we do not want just to survive. So we will see the state of the art, and we will analyze our industry in the last few months. Physical points of sales or online points of sale. And our dear Pierluigi will answer our question, that is, are we still a reference point for people who want to buy jewelry? Right, Pierluigi? Thank you very much for the great job you've done together with your team, and we're looking forward to listening to your presentation. We know that you've also chosen a significant sample of consumers for your research. Well, thank you very much, Stephen. I would like to show you my slides. I'm standing up because, given my size, I can speak better if I stand up. So this is the agenda of our morning. So we'll investigate jewelries in our country, consumption choices, the attractiveness of jewelry. This is a fundamental concept. Jewelry is back to being attractive, and then focus on social networks. That is the way how jewelry are presented in the digital world. Apart from the data coming from Istat, Banca d'Italia, we also have the results of a large survey carried out on a sample of Italian consumers. A very wide and inclusive sample of consumers who have bought, because of different reasons, a piece of jewelry in the last 2 years. With an interesting data, that is, we are also going to see data about those who did not buy a piece of jewelry, because we were also interested in analyzing that. So for a certain specific moment. They wanted to buy a present, but then they bought something different from jewelry. We want to know why they discarded this option. A few data regarding jewelries. In 2013, we had more than 17,000. In 2022, we got 12,517. So we can say that the number of jewelers has decreased significantly. 40% of jewelry shops can be found in Campania, Lombardy, and Lazio. The remaining 60% can be found in the other Italian regions. Campania alone has 14.3%, Lombardy 12.8%. The whole industry of jewelry shops has a turnover in 21 of almost 5 billion euro and about 34,000 employees. We should never forget about that, because 13,000 companies, we're talking only about jewelry shops, but 34,000 employees. I mean, this is not a niche, it is a social reality with 34,000 people working in this industry. Right, focusing on 2013, during a pretty long period of time, we have examined the decrease in the number of employees. In gold, we see that jewelry shops have been reduced more significantly than the number of employees. So the number of shops has gone down, but the number of people working in this industry has not gone down, because they have been employed by those shops that are still active. So the complexity of jewelry shops has increased. Some jewelry shops have organized themselves better, and they are the ones that have survived best on the market. So a decrease in the number of jewelry shops and a consolidation of the whole industry that is more resilient and stronger on the market now. These are some data that have been divided according to the geographic areas, number of employees, and turnover. And in the northwestern part of our country, we have 22.5% of companies with 23.6% of employees and 42.2% of the turnover. In the center of Italy, companies make up 21.4%, employees 20.1%, and the turnover makes up 29.1%. As you can see, most jewelry shops are micro companies with 1 to 9 employees, making up 97.2%. And in other words, conferring the identity to our industry. And their turnover makes up for little more than half of the turnover of this industry. Large companies with a significant number of employees are only 0.2% of the total, but they make 21.3% of the turnover. The data relating to e-commerce, this is not e-commerce in general, these are the online sales made by jewelry shops. So this excludes those actors that work only online, so 790 million. A few more data and then we will analyze the sample. We have had fun checking which are the websites that have the highest number of clicks in our country. So Amazon is number 1, followed by eBay, subito.it. Pandora ranks 24th. Strolli Oro 52nd. Why did we highlight this? Because this gives us an idea of the interest towards jewelry expressed by consumers. The red line represents jewelry shops. The blue line represents jewels. So, as you can see, at Christmas in 17, 18, 19, 21, and 22, there is always a peak in the Google searches by consumers. And the interest consumers show towards jewelry and jewelers, jewelry shops. This is a very interesting fact because it means that the consumer wanting to buy a present, say for Christmas, goes on the internet looking for a piece of jewelry and for a jewelry shops. Because even though the consumer obtains information on the internet and the barriers now between one channel, which is a traditional jewelry channel, and another channel, that is the information you obtain on the web, have become one single way to interface consumers. So it is necessary to mix the traditional way to sell jewelry and the innovative ways of selling jewelry, i.e. the new channels of communication. So I look for the jewelry shop because I want some advice from the jeweler, and through the jewelry shop I will buy that piece of jewelry that I want to give as a present. So let's have a look at the results of our sample investigation on 700 consumers who have been interviewed. So we've asked them in the last 2 years, this is a very recent survey, we made it close to Christmas. So in the last 2 years, did you happen to make presents, and if yes, on which occasions? 81.2% claim, yes, I made presents. Usually for birthdays, for Christmas, for anniversaries, weddings, and so on and so forth. So this 81.2% of consumers has bought many different items. They have bought clothes, a jumper, a dress, 64.2%. Electronic objects and IT objects, 44.8%. And jewels and watches, 35%. Of course, there were several possible answers. Maybe somebody bought a piece of jewelry for Christmas and an iPad for birthday, so that's why the percentages do not add up to 100%. So these are the first 3 choices: clothes, electronic devices, jewels and watches.
Si acquistano sempre in egual misura? Si acquistano sempre allo stesso modo? Non è così.
Do people always buy in the same way? Certainly not. For birthdays, for instance, on average, people buy, once again, clothes, electronic devices, jewels, and about 90% of people buy one of these 3 items for a birthday. The same is true for Christmas, with lower percentages of approximately 80%, a little bit more for jewels and electronic devices. But the difference is huge when we talk about anniversaries, in that 64.2% of clothes, only 28.8% have bought clothes for anniversaries. And that 44.8% of people who bought an electronic device for anniversaries, the percentage drops down to 33.3%. And when we talk about anniversaries and focus on that 35% of people who bought jewels, the percentage jumps to a 57.8%.
So in terms of anniversaries, the percentage of jewels and watches almost doubles. So that's the place, that's the context where jewels and watches are more generally given as a gift. So why haven't we considered also the fact of buying a jewel or a watch? Well, this is the question that we asked to that 65% of people who made a gift, but then they didn't buy a jewel. They, for example, gave a piece of clothes. Well, 50% say because of the excessive cost, 20% because I deem that the jewel is a personal product, and so very difficult to give. So let's say that the first reason for not buying a jewel is the high cost. So let's have a look at what our consumers have given as a gift: gold jewels, silver jewels, gemstones. So what were the reasons, the main reasons? Well, I knew that the person in question desired, wanted to have a one-off jewel. So this is the main answer given, 53%. So I replied to a desire, and I turned it into a solution. So I transformed the desire of my partner into a gift. So I turned that great dream into a desire. So because I like to wear jewels and gemstones, 42%, also because sometimes you buy jewels for yourselves. So where have they been bought? 91% in the jewelry shop, 8.2% online. So 92% of jewels has been sold in the physical shop. So the main reasons why you bought the jewel in a traditional shop, well, 47%, I prefer to touch the product that I buy. That's fundamental. Although that will be also supported by another notion, as we will see in a while. 36% because the jeweler, jeweler helps me in buying the jewel, and then also because the traditional shop gives me an immediate action, and then 17.9% the traditional way of buying things gives me fewer problems than online shops. Now, in the case of those who buy online, first, the easy and fast way to find the desired product. Well, we will see later that the person who buys online already has a very clear idea of what they want to buy, and that, of course, makes the difference. And then 20% of people, more a wider offer of products, etc. Now, we asked them, before buying a jewel, did you already know what type of item you wanted to buy? Because, well, jewels are not in everyday's life, so I don't know what I desire, and I don't know what my partner wants. Apart from some cases. And now 60% say yes, I had a very clear idea. And almost 40% says more or less, I had more or less a clear idea. So here we have the importance of the character of the jeweler. So we asked consumers, what are the actions that you made in order to complete the acquisition? Well, I went to the jewelry shop to have suggestions and recommendations. So the jeweler helped me buy that specific item that I didn't know I needed. So he guided me, they guided me, because I have a different profession. He's an architect, for example. He's a consultant. I am a sociologist. I'm not a jeweler. But I wanted to make a gift. I wanted to transform a dream into something real. So who helped me turn that dream into reality? The jeweler, who helped me, who guided me in the choice. Hence, the fundamental role of the jeweler. Well, in terms of satisfaction, the most satisfied users or people are those who were guided by the jeweler. Now, 19.2%, I first went to the jewelry shop and then I went online. So first they went to the shop and then they went online. Well, I carried out a first online investigation and then I went to the jewelry, 8.3%, and 67% the jeweler made the difference. And then we have those people who just went online. So among those who had a very clear idea, well, I know what the person wanted to have, 63%. Perhaps they had talked about that. Well, together with my partner, we went through the shop windows and we looked at the jewels, or because it is very widespread. I knew it was a quality product, but you see, 63.8%, I knew that it would be appreciated by the person in question. Now, what are the channels that I used? Well, information channels. So how have you identified the jewel that then you bought? 44.4% as suggested by the jeweler. So this is a figure that I would like to underline and combine with another figure. 92% of jewels have been bought in the shop and almost 45% as suggested or after recommendation of the jeweler. So that's a fundamental figure for our sector. And then with reference to jewels which have been bought, 26.5%, we have a recommendation from friends or others, 15% advertising in newspapers and TV, and 14% online. So you see the various channels and how they affected or influenced the choice. Well, they enabled me to see it actually worn by a person. They allowed me to investigate and know the characteristics of the product. They helped me know the product, and then also someone who spoke about possible discounts. Now, we combined different data. So 44.4% of people who have been guided by the jeweler, 26.4% by words of mouth, 15.2% TV spots and advertising, 14% only online. But what did they do then? So let's start from a jeweler. So they identify the product thanks to the jeweler. The advice by the professional jeweler enabled them to discover a product that they didn't know about. And then they completed the buying in the shop. So channels, acquisition experiences, which start from a dream and then turn into research, and that research is supported by the jeweler, and the acquisition is completed in the shop.
Word of mouth. We have talked about this with friends, people we know. I have seen the product on somebody, but the purchase took place in the jeweler's shop. In the newspaper, in the magazines, on TV, I saw the advertising, but I bought it in the jeweler's shop. So the shop is a powerful channel also to extract value from advertising investments by brands. Online, I identified the product online. I investigated its features, and then In some cases, I bought it online, and in some cases, I bought it in the shop.
4 gruppi.
4 different groups.
Incrociandoli con le domande che abbiamo
If
visto
we
prima,
cross them
abbiamo ottenuto 4
with the
profili.
questions we saw before,
Cominciamo dal
we
primo.
obtain 4 profiles.
Quando
Let's
è
start with the
contato
first
il
one.
consiglio del gioielliere? L'esperienza
How
del
significant was the
consumatore
advice
prima
provided by the jeweler? This is the experience of the consumer prior to buying. These consumers usually do not have a precise idea of which kind of jewel they're going to buy, but they know that they want to buy a piece of jewelry.
Cosa hanno acquistato in via prevalente?
So what did they actually buy? Golden
Dove li hanno acquistati?
jewels, gemstone jewels. Where did they buy them?
Gioielleria.
Here in the shop.
Quali sono stati i fattori di scelta del gioielliere?
Which were the factors that led to the choice? The shape, the line, the design, the brand.
Quali sono stati i fattori di scelta del canale di acquisto?
Why did they choose that specific purchasing
Fattori
channel?
di scelta del gioiello, fattori di scelta del canale.
It's
La
because,
gioielleria.
of course, you have to see also
Il
why
gioielliere
they
mi ha fatto
chose the
conoscere
shop.
il gioiello che non
The
sapevo
jeweler
che avrei potuto
showed
regalare.
me a piece of jewelry,
Mi ha
and I
fatto
didn't know
conoscere
that I
le
could have
caratteristiche
bought
del
that as a
prodotto.
present. The jeweler
Ho potuto vedere il gioiello.
explained to me the features of the product. I could see the jewel worn by somebody in the shop.
Comunicazione su giornali e TV.
Advice of friends and people they know, and the other channels, communication in newspapers, communication online. Well, in all 3 cases, this appeals to those consumers that already had a precise idea of what to buy,
O perlomeno pensavo.
or at least they thought they had a precise idea.
L'acquisto prevalente
The predominant type of purchase is silver jewelry.
argento,
Silver, silver, silver in all 3 cases.
anche nei primi 2 casi ho acquistato in gioielleria.
Also in the first 2 cases,
Quarto anche online.
people buy in the shop,
Prevale il rapporto
but with the 4th type of communication, people buy in the shop and online. When the channel leading me to the purchase is a word of mouth, then the quality to price ratio is paramount. When I read about the jewel in the papers, the brand also plays a role. And when I start buying online,
abbastanza indifferenziata.
there's no specific factor determining the choice of that specific piece of jewelry.
Mi ha fatto conoscere le
The jeweler explained to me the features of the jewel that I saw advertised. I could deepen the knowledge of the product online.
la sintesi che facciamo.
So, in other words, how can we summarize all this?
I prodotti in qualche modo più interessanti
The most interesting items
dal consiglio
and the richest items are the ones bought listening to the jeweler's advice.
di altri è in grado di
The jeweler, more than anybody else, is able to highlight the shape, the lines, the design, the brand, and provides a consumer with some orientation so that the consumer will buy the item that will give him great satisfaction.
contenuti social da lei
To conclude,
che hanno maggior
which are the social contents that have predominantly affected your choice of a piece of jewelry? 16.4% of consumers identified jewelry online. We saw this before. But specifically, we all know that social channels are a world apart. So what did they actually find there? They found sponsored content, 66.4%. I mean, advertising plays a fundamental role. And even if it is only in the social media, sponsorized communication leads most of those who obtain information through social channels. Stories, 24.8%. These are temporary contents. You know, we survey other sectors as well, and I can tell you that stories will become more and more important in time. We've seen this in other industries, and now when we see each other in a couple of years, you can be sure that that percentage will be much higher than what we see today. And the same is true for reels, those audio-video clip. At the moment, only 10.2%, but this will certainly go up in time. And then we have posts, which are photographs and texts.
Chi ha pubblicato i contenuti social da lei visualizzati?
Who
Allora,
published the
52%
social
dicono
contents you visualized? In
conferenze aziendali.
55.2%,
Sappiamo
brands.
come i
We
marchi,
know that
i
brands
brand guidano nell'acquisto del
are
consumatore,
leading the consumer
coloro
in his
che
or her
vedono
purchase.
un brand pubblicizzato
People
sui
seeing a
mezzi
brand
classici,
advertised in the
pubblicità,
classical
televisione,
media,
riviste,
such as
sui giornali,
TV,
ma in
magazines,
realtà poi anche i
newspaper,
social media.
but
E
also
sulle famose
for jewelry, this is
29,2%
very important.
celebrità, attori.
Famous
Voi
testimonials,
vendete
29.2%.
24,1%,
These are actors,
quindi
celebrities.
oggi non è più il
Jewelry
brand,
shops,
tanti anni fa lo era,
24.1%. I mean,
oggi
jewelry
si
shops in
prevede che
many
sono
cases
sul web,
today
sono sui
have
social
a
e
website, are
promuovono sui
active on the
social
social
i loro
media,
clienti.
and they promote their own
Una
shop window
personalità che
through
ha
the social
competenze in
channels.
materia,
A
5,2%,
personality who's competent in
influencer,
this field,
5,4%.
5.1%, and
In
professional
realtà questo è un
influencers,
influencer che
4.0%.
diciamo in
The
parte
data referring to
influenzato
influencers is
dai
partially
marchi, perché i
influenced
marchi in
by
qualche modo
brands, because
pubblicizzano
also
gli
brands
event dalle persone famose, oramai
are advertised by
un'influencer che è
influencers
influencer
and
o più
by
una persona
famous
famosa
individuals.
rendono i
So,
consumatori
famous
influencer.
individuals, celebrities, and influencers
Termino
are
qua la mia
converging in a
presentazione,
certain
ma
way.
rimango
So,
assolutamente
this
a
is all for my
disposizione
presentation.
delle
Please do not
relazioni quale
hesitate
futuri
to ask
interventi.
questions.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Grazie per l'originale.
Thank you very much, Pierluigi.
Decisamente esaustivo e
Thank you very much.
sull'asse
This has been really
ovviamente
exhaustive and extremely stimulating. And now I would like to listen to our president, Giuseppe Aquilino, and Mario Didone. Do you agree with this data? How do you sell in your shops? Do you tell a story? Do you sell a dream? Do you elicit emotions? I mean, is this your itinerary in your shop with your customers? For sure, I absolutely agree with what Pierluigi told us, and congratulations for your survey. This actually mirrors reality. This is what happens on a daily basis in our shops and in our world. I would like to make two remarks. First of all, if the purchase is made in the shop and the number of shops has decreased in the last few years, it is clear, in my opinion, that those shops, those stores with one salesperson, or maybe the owner was an elderly person who decided to close the shop, this was not updated. Conversely, the points of sales that are still there have evolved, meeting today's needs, and have increased their employees, and they are still there on the market. So these points of sale still have to go on educating and training their shop assistants.
So that relates to how you can change. So change should be seen as a new opportunity to develop one's own business. Is that what you actually mean? Yeah. And then another comment that I would like to make is as follows. Well, there has been an interview to those who wanted to buy a jewel, but then they didn't buy it. And most of them didn't buy it because of the high cost. Now, with reference to that, I would like to tell our colleagues here today that the Federation, so you are taking up the institutional cap. Yes, sure. I take advantage of the situation. So the other day, we finally completed an agreement with a bank, a very important bank, for consumption credit plans. We had been thinking about that for some years, and for various years we had closed our agreement with Findomestic, and now we can resume this work on consumption credits zero rate. So no cost, no extra costs for our customers. Well, this could help us recover those customers who do not buy jewels because of the high cost. Well, it can be another opportunity. Let's hope. Well, you know that we should also include an opportunity for buying, which is different from the usual one. Now, let's go back to the topic. And Mario Didone has a customer relationship which is very much based on dialogue. So we have seen that the wearability of a jewel is the key to acquisition. While you work in a historical shop, are there any differences? And this storytelling, is it important when a customer comes into your shop? Is it a client who already knows what they want to buy, or do they rely on your recommendations? Well, both of them. There are people who come to the shop with very clear ideas, and people who want to be helped and guided. Well, changes are there, and our company has a history of 130 years. I can tell you about my years. I've seen a lot of changes, very rapid changes, also in the past 3 to 2 years. So the company, our company, has evolved a lot. Now, the increase in the number of shop assistants is also due to the innovations that our company had to embrace. So, well, for example, we embraced the world of metaverse. You yourself or your company? Well, I'm a Highlander because I'm pretty old, so I'm also an avatar. Because, you know, there are traditional customers, but also new customers. There are the children and the grandchildren of our clients. So the increase in the number of staff is not only the number of staff that you see physically in the shop, but also people who are dedicated to these innovations that work in the platforms. And then NFT, non-fungible tokens, which is a virtual way of proposing a jewels. Now, going back to sales, customers want to try everything. Well, watches are different from jewels. In the case of watches, customers have clearer ideas. There are clients who want just a specific trademark, and there are lovers of watches that like more brands, but there is also a person who likes just one brand. It's like a car. There are people who just want that type of car. And the watch is the same. The watch, you know that you have gold, which can be pink, which can be yellow. So as we're speaking about high-top jewels or watches, of course, our customers want to know very well the characteristics. Well, for years, we went to Swiss companies, and so we know very well how a watch is made, how a watch is assembled. Watch which contain 300 or 500 pieces, so unique pieces. So we tell this story, and we tell our customer, well, you're buying a watch which is very rare. In the case of jewels, customers know already what they want. They say, I have to make a gift to my partner, to my wife, to my son or daughter. So there can be various occasions, weddings, university degree ceremonies. So there are a few people who come for themselves. Well, we have some clients, of course, some ladies who come and buy jewels for themselves. Well, let's say that this type of client is increasing in number. Yes, yes. We have customers who are used to having time to spend. So ladies who are dedicated to shopping. So they come there, they sit down, they talk, and we can present them new items, new lines. While there is less dialogue with foreigners, well, we have 4 shops in the city center, and we will add 2 new shops in the next few months. And now we have many foreign clients after the pandemic, and foreign clients, foreign customers. Well, in general, we have less opportunities for dialogue. So foreign customers, right, because they have little time, because they stay just a few days in Rome, and they have very clear ideas about what they want. So they usually like very famous brands. I'm referring above all to Asian customers because they are very fashionable. They like fashionable things. So if you have a fashionable product, everything is easier. If you don't have it, you can tell them I have a craftsmanship product, but they do not appreciate it. So, of course, we have to be in line with the fashion and with the dialogues that you have with your customers. Well, let's say that we have a prevailing part of customers who want to have a dialogue, who want to have a talk with us. They see the shop as a sitting room, let's say. Well, what is really important is to keep a pace, to take care of customers, and to give services to customers so that they become loyal. Because it's not just selling a product, it's also the follow-up, the polishing or the repair works that you make. Yeah, trust is important, services, training of the staff, because, well, customers now are very much informed. They go to in the internet and they learn a lot of things. So if I buy a bottle of water, I know perfectly what that specific water contains, a type of mineral instead of another. So the staff has to be very trained. When there was no internet, things were easier. Yeah, you say a couple of years ago. Yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah, you have to be very well trained, and as the colleague said, training is very important. Many brands offer training, and we also provide training to our staff. So teamwork is important for you.
So this is also what President Aquilino's company does. But since we got here two important examples, which is your view of 2023? Which are your forecasts? I know you don't have the crystal ball. You haven't got a magic wand either, but the data we've seen today can actually be useful to make a medium-term prediction, so to say. We all know that things can change on the market on a daily basis, but do you see the next year, 2023, as a positive year, or a negative impression? Are you happy with this edition of Vicenza Oro? So what do you expect from the future, given the fact that gold has gone up a little bit in price on the stock market? Well, if we see how the fair is faring, we're very confident. If we look at 2022, we are very confident because tourism is back to our city, which is an art city, and domestic consumers have also woken up, so to say. You've seen how many people there were yesterday and the day before. It was so crowded. We haven't seen it so crowded for a long time, but many people in the booth. And it seems very, very positive. So we are very positive, and we go on investing. We're opening new stores, and we believe, we're confident. You always have to be confident and positive, really. Yes, thank you very much. President, just a quick comment before concluding. I agree with what my dear friend Didone was saying, and I would like to add, because we know that he was mentioning the foreigners lacking in the past and now coming back. But I have seen that immediately after the end of the first lockdown, so prior to the so-called red areas, there was such a desire in the people. They had not been able to travel. They had not been able to spend their money. They had not been able to buy. Also for those products that were our competitors, and they all flooded our stores. Since 2020 up to present time, in my own personal experience, for my company, I have witnessed a growth, and I am hopeful for 2023 as well. There is a comeback of the desire, the craving for jewels, which are meant in a different way from the traditional jewels of the past. Jewels today are something that I like, that gives me emotions, that I can wear on a daily basis. I do not want to keep it in the safe. It is part of myself. So you're positive as well. Thank you very much. Right. We are concluding with a smile on our lips, confident in a shiny and successful 2023. So thank you very much to all of you. All the best. Thank you to Format. Thanks to our president. A short break, and we will resume with the next retail talk. Thank you.